Well, as expected, the prosecution has now rested on the final day of the state's case against Alec Murdaugh. A SLED agent went minute by minute through a reconstructed timeline using phone records and vehicle data from Alec, Maggie, and Paul Murdaugh.
Our Nick Neville is live outside the Colleton County Courthouse. Nick, a lot to sift through here. Walk us through some of the key takeaways, because there are some extremely key moments today.
Yes, absolutely. So all of this data reinforces and lays out plainly for the jury inconsistencies with Murdaugh's timeline from the night of the murders. It shows that Murdaugh's phone went dark for several hours that evening. It also shows that he deleted dozens of phone calls from his call logs from that night. But perhaps most revealing is the fact that Murdaugh called 911 20 seconds after arriving at the dog kennels, the scene of the crime, with prosecutors alleging that this would not have been enough time to check both bodies for pulses. Murdaugh's phone shows no steps from 8:09 p.m. until approximately 9:02. He claims to have been napping at this time, but several witnesses have identified his voice at the crime scene in a video taken by Paul at 8:44.
Did the defendant repeatedly deny ever being at the kennels at that time period?
Yes, he did. Various interviews with law enforcement.
Phone records indicate that both Maggie Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh's phones were locked forever at 8:49. Prosecutors displayed a pace spreadsheet that shows Alec's fastest steps of the day by far are just minutes later, right before his Suburban cranks up.
He was a busy guy right then, wasn't he?
It appears.
The timeline then reveals Murdaugh's high-speed trip to his mother's house, with speeds up to 74 miles per hour. It shows he was there for 20 minutes, not 45 minutes to an hour, as he later told investigators.
Was the defendant's top speeds on both the trip to and from Alameda in excess of any max speed in his trips previous in the day?
That'd be correct.
Murdaugh's timeline further tightens as when he arrives at the kennels, he calls 911 seconds later, despite telling law enforcement that he checked Maggie and Paul's pulses and tried to turn Paul over.
From the moment the Suburban arrived at the kennels, how long did it take for that 911 call to be made?
Less than 20 seconds.
Now, on cross-examination of Agent Rudofsky, the defense sought to explain this quick 911 call by saying that Murdaugh could have essentially, the headlights from Murdaugh's car could have illuminated the bodies and the bloody crime scene, causing him to run to those bodies. They then set a timer for 20 seconds, implying that that could have been enough time for him to check both bodies for pulses. Now, Greg Adeline is standing by. Greg, there was some fascinating new evidence and new testimony that we learned today. Previously had not heard this before, that could illuminate a possible second motive here for prosecutors.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. A lot of information coming forth in that testimony from earlier on today, especially in regard to what could be perhaps a second motive presented by prosecutors here on the last day of their case. A second motive that was gleaned from some of the cell phone information from Maggie and Paul Murdaugh's cell phones. Now, let's set this up for you just a little bit, because yesterday you'll remember that this jury heard information about Alec Murdaugh's opioid addiction. That was as a part of the roadside shooting that happened on September 4th, and that information was allowed into the trial, that testimony allowed in. You'll remember, too, in some of that testimony yesterday, when Alec Murdaugh said to SLED in an interview from September the 13th, 2021, that at times he would spend up to $60,000 per week on opioids. Well, today, a SLED agent testified that Paul and Maggie Murdaugh may have known about that addiction. You'll also remember in that interview with SLED back on June the 10th, 2021, it was a recorded interview 3 days after the murders, Alec refers to Paul as a, quote, little detective. Well, today, from the stand, SLED agent Peter Rudolfsky showed a text, a transcribed voicemail from Paul to Alec May the 6th, 2021, a month before the murders, that read, quote, need to talk to you. Mom found several bags of pills in your computer bag. Then Rudolfsky showed information gleaned from Maggie's phone showing that she Googled descriptions of various pills on May the 26th, 2021. Take a listen.
And on May 26, 2021 at 11:21 p.m., Maggie searched green gel pill P30. She also searched 11:20 p.m. a green gel pill P30, white pill 30 on one side RP, and if you look to the right, you're going to see a column that says deleted. That one is showing yes has been deleted, and then if we go down to row number 4, it's going to be May 6, 2021 from Safari, white pill 30 on one side RP, and that's also shown deleted. Okay.
Now, in their cross-examination, the defense showed another text from Alec Murdaugh to his family, members of his family, including Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, that read, quote, "I'm sorry to do this to all of you," apparently in reference to perhaps some of those pills that were discovered the day prior by his son, Paul. Now, it's interesting to note that the agent testified that Maggie never responded to that text. All of this creating perhaps a second motive in this case. Very compelling evidence to this jury as the state wraps up their case that not only did Alec Murdaugh have an opioid addiction, but also his family knew about it. We're live in Walterboro. Greg Adeline, WIS News 10.